Hello, everyone. We're here. We're live streaming on SoulogyNetwork.com. And I'm your host, Ashley Lee. And I'm here to present with you The Miracle is You. And in our Miracle is You, I'm showcasing our special guest today, Laura Marcos. Thank you for joining us, Laura. I'm so excited you're here to discover how the miracle is you and how the miracles in your life have shifted and changed and grown into such magnificent phenomena that we're all here and excited to share with everyone. Welcome.
My goodness, Ashley, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here and talk about the most amazing thing in this world, the miracles that we are and how we can make those contagious.
Yes, contagious, literally, right?
That's
And
right.
would you share just for a few moments about who you are, and what you bring to our world? I'm just so excited because you are amazing.
Oh, what a fabulous question. And I'm really just always playing with how to answer that because we're just we are light. And in this body, I came forth in New Jersey to beautiful parents that were from Cuba. So I lived the immigrant inner city urban life. I became a school counselor out there. I was living my dream because that was my dream job. And then I realized, as we've discussed, that the school system is not the place that is really going to help you tap into the power, the potential, the talent, and all the gifts that you have, and be able to stand in who you are and question sometimes what's wrong in the world and take our power. So I had this powerful experience where I offered to do a workshop for free on the law of attraction for all the students in the school. And when it was seen as an interruption to test taking, I had this great epiphany. And I thought to myself, my goodness, this is big. I have to chase my coworkers to grow as a professional. So I was like, the Grand Canyon's big. I think it's time for me to go. And then I Googled how to get into the Grand Canyon, and I read Vegas or Sedona. And I said, Vegas is out, this place. I booked a flight, an Airbnb, and a car rental, and my life has completely changed within 24 hours of arriving to this beautiful desert paradise. I knew I was supposed to live here. It took me 13 months to manifest this amazing home where I now live and work and do a lot of different service projects. I'm very passionate about health, wellness, a spiritual growth, kindness, compassion, truth, freedom. I study a lot of these concepts in depth. So I'm a researcher. I have also been healing naturally since 2005. I work with a stem cell company. I'm learning private law. And I am also the author of this wonderful book, Ride the Waves, an emotional journey through the waves of life. And yeah, it's one of the things that I'm most passionate about, along with you, on how to connect with children and parents and families, because that's where it all begins. Children that have parents that are emotionally present for them and can really support them are going to excel and succeed in any environment, be it any kind of public school, private school, homeschooling. So the family experience is really, really important. And I hope to support that in many different ways.
Oh my gosh, me too. I going into the realm of emotional support for children and for adults, right? It's so valuable to support that which we feel like we have mastery of, right? Because every human is born with emotional ability, right? We don't have to learn how to have emotions. They just automatically come into our very sense of being. We could say we're hardwired with emotions. But the tricky part is we didn't come with a manual of how to work that hardwiring, right?
Right.
And so in that process, like, what does emotional wisdom mean for you? And how do you share that with the kids and the adults?
Well, it's beautiful that to reflect now that I realize I never had a conversation about emotions or emotional intelligence with my family or my parents, or even in school growing up. It was starting to be discussed, like, the concept of EQ and Daniel Goleman's theory of, awareness and managing your emotions. But really, what a helpful way to look at it that's just really simple and that children can understand is that it's energy. It's just energy. So, and it's intelligence. It's coming through with a signal, with a message. So a lot of times I would tell young people that I was working with or parents that your body is like a musical instrument and it's constantly speaking. So to allow yourself to take a moment and realize what kind of emotions are moving through you, and don't judge them, just observe them. Because one of the big themes in the book, Ride the Waves, is knowing that all emotions pass, just like time is flowing and the currents of water just flow in a river. It's just constantly moving. So if we allow it to move, and now it becomes an opportunity to develop greater awareness, like what is happening here, right? And because we are so multisensory, right? We only hear about 5 senses in school, but the last update I got, universities are currently studying 23 senses. 23. So
23.
23 senses. That's
Would
what
you
that's
sh would you share for us a little bit about some of the other 23 outside of the 5 we already are aware of?
well, to be honest, I have been in communication with the people working in this field, but
Yeah.
and have links onto what they're doing, but more is it like tapping into this intelligence. Like, for example, when I left my job, there was an intelligence in my body. I was going to be a school counselor my entire life. I worked in that position from 2005 to 2017. A waterfall of love came over me. My heart burst open and I hear a message: you're leaving your job. Now, how would you describe or define the container for the kind of intelligence that came through my body? It was an experience of, it was just sensation. So
Yeah.
because I study intuition and know intuition is a bypass of the analytical mind, and it's, and has so many, and we can talk a little bit about that too, because there's just so many ways that intuition tries to grab our attention, that we can now shift it. We can now listen. We can choose to listen, because a lot of times it's a different skill, hearing it or feeling it and then following it and listening, two different things. But it's a body, an awareness that is beyond. Well, I'm struggling sometimes to define the exact words, but I know that it exists because it's a feeling, it's a sentience that
Yeah.
that led me to Sedona. So one of the most beautiful things that has ever happened to me in my life. And now I have a half an acre here with mountain views, like everything, cathedral ceilings. It's because of the energy that I was just following the energy without my mind. So
Yes.
it's a very, very powerful form of intelligence that I want to teach, because it's an experience. Like, I can talk about it, but you really need to experience it yourself to know what I'm talking about. And then it seems like another reflection I'm having on the nature of intelligence is how when my neural synapses seem to be connecting dots in certain way, like even the language of numbers is an intelligence. Like, so sometimes I see numbers and it's like a frequency that I'm understanding in some secret language, but don't really know how to define yet. I just know that it's an intelligence that's there. So I do hope these these studies and these colleges doing this work help us move this conversation along and get better at
Yeah.
these gifts that are innate to all of us.
Well, moving into the level like you just shared of a whole feeling wafting through your very being. And so you're connected to it where you're beginning to recognize or experience, right, our emotional states inside viscerally in our body. And that feeling then gets integrated with us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And then that way, that feeling then doesn't become an older thought of an emotional override. So like, for example, when we get angry, there's this feeling of anger, and then there's this emotion of anger. And that emotion, kind of funny with wordplay, right? With E for energy, motion. So energy and motion can be an emotion. So us creating these distinctions in our languaging helps us share a similar experience that we're having, that you're having. And so then our conversation becomes a we versus a you and a me. And it helps us collectively, even through the quantum field, kind of come together through those emotional states, right? And we didn't realize that we could share emotions that way. The way that I see it many times too is like I create a thought, and I want to move that thought into a relationship or into an awareness or into, like you said, creating your house. Like you moved the emotion of creating the house that you wanted to create to fill in the physical dots of the physical house, right? And so you filled the space with the emotion. Joy, is that true? Excitement, glee, celebration, all of those words start to manifest this physical form in front of us. And that we work in conjunction with other people. Like you found a house for sale and that was the perfect house to purchase. And so you created this in our physical or our external reality. We created this together through the emotion. So what I see is that when we have a thought and we're sending that through, we can put an emotion around it consciously to thwart it into existence. And so I see the value of emotions being accelerant to physically manifest form in front of us.
I could not agree more. I think one of my little secrets, how I grew up in the most densely populated square mile in the United States. It's actually in the top 3. I grew up right outside Times Square in a little shoebox apartment, really humble. Or my house was very, from the 60s. It was an older home. And my practice was to just walk on the city sidewalks and where everything is overcrowded and just see everything is beautiful. Like the cracks in the sidewalks and the grass growing, the texture of the roofs, the different cars, the temperature, the sound of the birds in the air. So I practiced feeling like it was the most beautiful place in the world. I did that for years. And then out of nowhere, I got catapulted to Sedona. So it was like my emotional practice was part of the magic and the synergy that would make me a vibrational match for the energy, for the emotions that are in Sedona. So I even just find it fascinating that a place can have intelligence, like the land here. How is it that I live now in a place where no one is from here, but everyone has a magical story as to how they got here? It's a phenomenon in and of itself. So there is this telepathic communication, and even to sometimes, and to, just share. Sometimes like I realize that the mountains can speak or the plants can speak. And then I think to myself, you just spoke to me in English. How is it possible? However, the plants and the mountains, they are part of the field of oneness of infinite intelligence that speaks every single language. So it was also teaching me, because I guess that's the way that we learn, through experience. So a lot of times, like, it's just going to come through me, not directly from a class that I took, or and not that hurts to take classes and lessons. It's beautiful because it's all playing a part in the symphony. It's almost like there's music playing all the time, and can you open yourself up to hear it? And your emotions are one of those gateways through which you can develop a deeper connection to the field all around you of infinite intelligence. So yes, it's very easy to get caught in repetitive old patterns, because the brain is kind of like a computer, as we know, right? And then the highways that can get so hardwired, the neurons and the dendrites. I would explain this to children too. I did this a lot with parents. Like, look, the more that you think something, this is a little neuron and this is another one, and the highway is getting the more you think it, the stronger that highway gets. So what I'm learning about most recently is activating the sleeping parts of the brain, such as the corpus callosum, which is that highway between the right and left brain that is dormant. So when they take those imaging scans of our brain, this is like sleep sleeping for everyone. What if we were to use more of our brain or do exercises and techniques and be access to, be exposed to frequencies and plants themselves can help create new neural pathways in the brain. Meditation, yeah, so much, right? And then when we have more of our brain to use, we can override some of those patterns because there is that bidirectional experience, right? Where the body and the brain and the thoughts and the emotions are influencing each other. How can you override these patterns and learn to ride the waves better with all the tools and the teachings that you have from watching podcasts like this?
Right? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yes, that's right.
I'm so excited about you mentioning 23 different types of emotions, and 23 different types of sensory input that we have, because I think that is grossly underestimated about what we really do. And that we move in from the concept just of seeing alone, like people who can see, we can see auras or energies, we can see emotional energies, we can see mental energies, we can see quantum particle energies, we can see gamma rays and other different rays. Lots of people can see different things with their eyes. Then we can also see with our third eye. So I recognize that even when we're maybe blind with our eyes or can't see very well with our physical eyes, we all have access to seeing, and that there isn't anyone that doesn't have the availability to see. And many blind people talk about even seeing with their third eye, that it images the external world the way that everyone else sees it too, so that they can work in consensus with everyone else. So there is so many ways, even in just the 5 basic senses, of what it is we can do to augment our ability. Like you shared, when you felt the wafting of the universe, just allow like a big shower coming through you of love, and it opened your hearing to a certain level where you got to hear the inner voice, the inner guidance, the higher essence of all of ourselves, to come in through that infinite intelligence to share with you. It's time to leave where you are now and go to where you are, well, you were then, and then where you are now in Sedona. Sedona is
Mm.
amazing and it's beautiful. And the opportunities, right, for the energy, different centers and areas of this space really allow us to open in ways we didn't think that we could. And that
Yeah.
emotions allow us to open to where we didn't know we could. And
Yeah, it's all part of the dance. They're divine. They come in and they don't have, like, I'm really learning not to try to judge or understand everything, because, oh my God, am I crying because, but sometimes you actually don't even need to understand the emotion. Sometimes just observing it and letting it flow is enough. And that's a beautiful teaching in of itself, because the mind, sometimes the best gift we can give ourselves is practicing being quiet and just focusing on that feeling, so that we are, as you're saying, more receptive to the infinite intelligence. And as you just spoke about blindness, I cannot help but to have this flashback of a beautiful experience that I had with an animal, right? Because how many of us experience telepathy with animals, or just innate connection or healing? I was in an animal sanctuary in upstate New York, and all the animals there had been wounded in some way. But it's beautiful. I mean, just such an unbelievable array of animals there. And I came upon this owl, and I looked at this owl and I just became enchanted. So in my mind, I'm not speaking out loud. In my mind, I'm saying, oh my goodness, you are so beautiful. You're a queen. You're majestic. Your wisdom is beyond comprehension. And all of the sudden, Ashley, this wind came up my clothing, and like it was just, and just caught me by surprise. And I looked at her and I said, that was you. And the owl blinked. It blinked at me. And then as I'm continuing this majestic moment with this owl, where we're just soul gazing. And as I'm walking away, the owl is following me, following me, following me. And I said, this owl is just amazing. And I go to find somebody that works there. And I said, you've got to tell me about this owl. This owl just moved the wind, because I was talking to it. And she looked at me and she goes, that owl is blind. Could you believe that? I mean, it's one of the most remarkable animal experiences that I've ever had, but it just goes to show that I was ready also to communicate in this way, just because I was just, my heart was so open. And then that's a whole other field of intelligence, just the heart wisdom, right? Because
Yes.
there's those people that have a heart transplant and then they put the heart in the body of another person, and that person who receives the heart transplant all of a sudden has the talents of that person. They can play piano, or they're very good at engineering, or have a totally new skill. And that's another form of intelligence that we honestly don't talk about enough in our world.
I know, right? Open heart and intelligence. And the way that you shared it was so beautiful to share that when we open our hearts and we share our soul or our temperaments or our very being heart to heart, we start to share our keys, right? Our mastery, our giftedness with others. And we think that we have to IP it. We think we have to hold it off and we have to NDA it and keep it separate and not, and exchange value for our giftedness. And what if we can share inside of our giftedness to illuminate the giftedness of others, and the illumination of the giftedness of others, like the owl did with you,
Mhm.
right? Then added value to our world in ways that we couldn't even imagine. So that then our value of our each of our giftedness coming together, heart to heart, now creates this level of synergy in the environment that we never knew we could create together.
It is amazing, and it's such a beautiful thing when and everyone has this gift. Everyone has this capacity to love infinitely, the way that the divine loves us. But I really appreciate spending time with people that are really in their hearts, because our magnetic fields amplify each other. I mean, by
Yes.
myself, I'm, it's great. It's wonderful. But when I'm together with other beings and the frequency gets higher, just like I know a lot of people in the audience can resonate just going to a concert. So many people happy in the same room together creates a magnetic field. That's why, people pay the big ticket prices to go to a concert, because they're going to feel that very precious emotion, that feeling of interconnectedness, of sharing the intelligence of joy, of excitement.
So there's maybe one of the 23 emotions is sharing the intelligence of joy,
Mm,
right? Through heart coherence.
yes, absolutely.
Or maybe it's number 24.
Yes, I did have a few links on it. I will do a little bit more inquiry, because there wasn't too much information, because I'm fascinated by this topic and can't wait to learn more. But yeah,
I'm so excited about it too. Like
yeah,
it's just
heart.
amazing. And like just think about like if we share our heart with other people and somebody's, I don't know, liver is hurting, right? And maybe their liver is full of anger, and the other person's heart is full of joy. And how we get offensed to each other, right? We can feel that frequency mismatch, right? They have anger, I have joy, I don't want to be a part of them. What if we just opened our heart? We believe in the olden days that if we opened our heart and we shared our love with somebody, they would take advantage of it. And they would take it and they would vampire it and they would suck the energy from us and then we'd be depleted. How do you feel about all of that, sharing that with children and families too?
Oh, I love having these conversations, because they're creative and they're flowing. What's the wisdom that you bring to the table? And yeah, and thinking about it and then framing it as a gift. Because I love how you just brought that up. I also had that in my office as a school counselor, the chart with the body and all the emotions, and what, twisting your ankle meant, or, pain in your knee, pain in the elbows, lungs, breath, ears. Maybe someone's trying to give you a message and you're not, you're resisting it, and that's why your ear is feeling some pain, right? So it's
Yeah.
think of it as a gift, because then when you have the teaching, now you can practice that. Now your magnetic field can be stronger, because it's clearer, it's got more wisdom in it. And then people, hopefully, because when you are in a space of love, people will feel safe around you.
Exactly. Exactly. So I noticed when I'm able to, especially as a nurse, maybe at the bedside, because that's where it's given or it's shared and received, right, from the patient and families and different people. And what I recognize when we open our heart and we share it with someone, let's say that has an angry liver, and then we share our heart coherence to the liver of the other person or to the whole person. And it starts to diminish just in our presence, right? It starts to diminish their anger or their experience. It may not fix all the limiting beliefs. It may not fix all the patterns that you had described earlier that kind of keeps us stuck in these negative feedback loops. But also in that moment, when we provide that heart coherence to the liver, we're actually truly not giving love, we're sharing love, because love I don't think is givable. I sense it's really only shareable. It's a shareable wave. The liver receives it, the liver opens and says, wow, maybe I don't need to feel angry anymore about whatever, drop that anger into the liver, right where the person wanted to detoxify the liver. I mean, the anger, right? And so we have a belief that when they feel better, that we somehow got depleted. And that's where we believe that we have to give our love in order to be good, in order to be kind, in order to be pleasant for other people. And then they receive it or take that and then feel better, then they don't really reciprocate back to the person. But they might not be ready to reciprocate back to the person. They're just recovering from all of that anger releasing from their liver. So what we do is when we feel that heart coherence to the liver and it did something, it shifted, then what we do is we, the one that had the higher awareness, if you could say, breathed in from the universe like you received, that wafting of receiving of love from the universe again and filling your cup up. And then what we learn is that we have continuous flow patterns. Like it doesn't just stop and take this certain amount out of your heart and out of your love, and then you have to fill it up again with something else, like going to get something to eat or going to get a hug from somebody else. And it's constantly, we're running around, I feel like little robots on the planet going, well, I gave you this, so you've got to give me that. And so that's what I sense is really strangling some of our emotional development, is
For sure.
misinterpreting how these emotions, these visceral emotions, move through our body.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic as to how we create expectations and attachments. And it is a dance, right? Because we're all human and we all take turns playing the same exact roles, a lot of us, right? So to keep humble and stay present, I'm one of my big practices, and it never ends. I'm always a student of this, is just to be the observer. How does this thought feel? Does it make me feel more alive? Does it make me feel more loving? Does it make me feel more kind? And then on the flip, when I am angry, knowing that there's a reason for that. And a lot of times anger is because a boundary has been violated. Anger is an appropriate response to oppression, to, harm done, and then to allow my body to feel that is an intelligence in itself, anger. Now, how can I move it? How can I heal it? How can I shift it without judging it and just being present to it and understanding that for me, for example, writing is one of the forms that I'm going to move it, right? To write, but probably even healthier than that is just going to the creek, because sometimes like if we have an emotion that is staying with us and it's uncomfortable, one of the best techniques is really just go out in nature and have some fun and give yourself a break from that thought. So that so that's really, really important too in this journey to greater awareness and growth, as we pull the gold nuggets from our emotions, right? Because if I'm hurt, if I'm angry, where was I not in integrity? Where were my boundaries not clear? Because there's a lesson there. And like you say, and that lesson is a miracle and is a gift. So once I integrate it, now I can maybe talk about it, and hopefully it will support another and also help me as I better understand whatever's happening.
It's so really true. And what you described is like, we kind of learn from the universe, like you shared with from the owl and from all the divine that is, to move you and to move your physical body like into another space, into another physical space on the planet, and then into another space of awareness with the owl. And we've recognized that energy flows through us constantly. And maybe our emotions or our thoughts or our feelings or the way that we're perceiving the world shuts that energy flow down by those boundaries or those ways we felt cut off. And you shared so beautifully. So recognizing possibly that we could recognize that the world is supporting us. Even when it feels uncomfortable, the world is supporting us and sharing with us lessons, ideas, and shifting awarenesses when we might have been stuck in one awareness loop cycle that we haven't been able to escape, extrapolate from, and move through, right? And so sometimes it feels like an escape, right? And then you talked about so deeply is to then become present to the emotions or the experience we've had through the technique, through the mastery, through the opportunity of becoming silent within. So would you share with us a little bit about your practice of how you create the presence of silence?
Yes, I would love to do that. And before I do, I would just like to speak very briefly on honoring what is. Right. So
Beautiful.
before we get to that space, because I realized that was very healing. One of the reasons I felt so good at my work as a school counselor and that children would come to me again and again and that people felt safe with me is because they felt seen. So before I think even I want to talk about silence is really just saying how valuable it is in the therapeutic process, as a nurse, as a counselor, as a parent. As a parent, your children, if they're crying, if they're upset, if they're in disharmony, it's because something that they're experiencing doesn't feel seen. So like to just to be present for someone and for yourself. And then
Yes.
once you're allowing that emotion to be seen, one of the easiest ways to get into silence is obviously you have to make the decision that you're going to give yourself permission to be silent for even just 2 minutes. There are studies that show even 2 minutes of silence help boost the immune system, regulate the nervous system, regulate the heart rate. Just 2 minutes a day can change your life. But if you do more than 2 minutes, you can imagine the benefits are extraordinary enough for me, right? And I'm a living model of this practice because I was able to be silent enough to listen to my intuition, to come to Sedona, and then manifested, the most beautiful gift, a 5-bedroom house in the mountains. I mean, out of nowhere, out of thin air. I didn't have to put it on a to-do list. I didn't have to put it on a vision board. I just allowed myself to become the vibrational match, and the highway or a highway to that can really be a silent practice meditation. And a trick, one of the tricks to becoming silent is to focus your awareness on your senses. So right now, they say that your whole day can be a form of meditation, but right now, to just even relax my nervous system, I can I can pay attention or bring my awareness to the sound of my voice, to the temperature on my skin, to the sound of the cicadas just outside the window. So by focusing on the sensations around me, be it hearing, be it sight, like my eyes could just take in all the colors and shapes and textures, that can also help me. And then I would even go deeper, right? If I'm not talking, but of course, I'm happy to talk to you on this amazing topic today. But if I wanted to go deeper for those listening, after I just continue to focus, a thought comes over, I focus again on the sound. I see how far I can hear out to the left, how far I could hear out to the right. And then I just stay there as long as I can. And that is a beautiful exercise. I believe that it's opening portals in the brain. It's opening pathways in the brain to receive more intelligent from spirit, because your mind is getting out of the way. You're not even trying. Your focus is really just on relaxing. And yeah, silent practice can be life-changing. I work with an 84-year-old Satnam teacher that, yeah, he just is beautiful. So we practice being in the silence together, because it's nice to also practice with somebody. If you have a partner, if you have a loved one, a friend, even your child, spend 10 to 15 minutes together in silence. It will change your life.
That's so beautiful. And you shared so eloquently that a key before we go into silence. So it's like, how everyone shares silencing the mind helps us move into other forms of awareness that allows us to see what we hadn't seen before. So in these forms of meditation, and one of the keys to begin that, because I sense many people are challenged, they say, I can't silence my mind. I don't know how to meditate. And you brought forward a beautiful key is to notice what is and to be accepting of what is, acknowledging what is. Maybe I call this a singer in Canada sings a song called Sweet Surrender. And she does a beautiful job of sharing that. And that's this idea that we surrender to what is as we're present to what is occurring in our environment on the inner and the outer, so that we can be present to what is to determine or to create what will be together in our environment. Like what you created, what will be with the owl, for example, that the owl could see even when it was technically blind, right? It had the ability, it saw you. So it saw you on another level to fly and to be with you and follow you, imitating that it could see, but it wasn't imitating, was it? It saw on a different level that others noticed in the owl, that you had noticed in the owl, that the others hadn't yet noticed. And that's us being silent to notice what is there and what is available to create maybe solutions created in love, rather than continuing on that cycle to create solutions based from the fear we want to change, or that
Mhm.
negative emotion. And when we
Yeah,
step into what is, right, we let go of that attachment to outcome, and we let go of that failure or that fear, that uncertainty and doubt. And we move into what we all represent, is to say, to standing in our power or to being in our power.
Hmm. And that's what we came for. It's such a good feeling to know that you're clear, and the feeling is that your mind, heart, body are all in alignment. That's also a sense. It's a sense. It's an intelligence in and of itself. And yeah, that's what we came for. And we get to do the dance of emotions. We get to do the dance of turmoil, of light and dark and conflict and resolution, so that we can become the diamond, that miracle that we are, and inspire that light. Because God is, thank you so much for the opportunity to allow us to be brilliant, to be an aspect of you. It's just such a gift. But you have to, like, I realize that I had to, I don't know if earning this kind of happiness is the right word, but I had, I'm a person that experienced a lot of sadness, anxiety, and depression as a child. So I did not know how to manage my emotions, which is part of this inspiration for this beautiful book, which, speaking of intelligence, it was a transmission that I received when my heart was just open. I had been invited by a few of my elders to spend a week with them in Costa Rica. They were had this beautiful little hut, and they had an extra bedroom where I could stay. And I was just so happy to be on the beach. And I just sat there and I felt all this power. And again, this transmission comes through, and I'm writing and writing. I wrote many things. And one of the things that I wrote on the beach in those days was this book. And how did I know to write it? It's because God told me to write it, to write it, because there's so many children and adults struggling with their emotions and learning to ride the waves, and that there is beauty in everything. And it's, when your butt is getting kicked emotionally, it doesn't feel very beautiful. And I get that, and I honor that. And I wrote this book to really add an imprint into the consciousness of children and parents as they connect on the topic of emotions, to know that this too shall pass. And like water, it just needs to flow. It's just something that's coming to you for whatever reason. A lot of the times it's because we are unaware of the multi-layered aspects of our emotional intelligence. So the universe is calling to us the mirrors for us to look at and say and really discern what is love, what is not love, and how can we make it love? If it isn't, how can we make it at least inside us? Because what we're talking about is then being that mirror, right? So, okay, I'm going to take that experience, I'm going to make it into love inside me, and then I'm going to bring that love forth through to the world in a new way. And maybe that new way is boundaries, right? Like new boundaries, like I love you, but I need to feel safe around you, because a lot of it is about being safe to feel whatever we need to feel, be it anger, disappointment, grief, sorrow. Let it be safe so that it can move and flow like water. And then new emotions and colors and textures can come through to continue to make our life so rich and beautiful.
Well, you said that so well, where you shared about developing boundaries and then allowing yourself to feel what you feel and let that move through. Because what if the boundaries then begin to expand or begin to contract or begin to pulse in different ways so that we can feel safe? For me is this opportunity to consciously create with my environment. So when I feel unsafe, what I do is I'm like, wow, okay, what created that unsafetyness? So our ability, like you shared, to go into silence and shared how do I feel unsafe? How do I feel not okay? How do I feel that this interaction isn't ready for me being present? Those are kind of some of the boundaries I feel.
I
Is
love
that
it. Yeah.
right?
No,
Like,
go ahead. I just love that you're pausing to ask that important question. I
yeah.
feel safe. So good.
Yeah. Isn't that so good? And that opportunity to go into that minutia of silence, even to listen to the emotion, want to share. Because I sense, quite honestly, like you shared about how, what did you share that had English in it, right? Like the mountain or the plant started to talk to you in English. Well, what if our emotions could start to talk to us in English as well? Or whatever language, Spanish or whatever language is our primary language that we like to communicate with orally, right? Even maybe orally in our head, in our heart, is because we're bringing in words that start to create contexts of material objects or material experiences. Even relationships become material, right? In that way, and how we relate to it. And so in that process, when we take a moment to notice, what is my emotions sharing? Because I sense when we start to do that and we start to communicate with our emotions and our emotional responses, we get a little deeper with ourselves. And many of us are empathic, the ability to feel and experience others' emotions, like the owl, like the plant, like the mountains, and other people. Then we have that in our body and we're wondering, what is this? I don't remember thinking this or creating this. It may be a subconscious or unconscious pattern, but then it might be someone else's totally different. Is as we open our heart and we become heart coherent with our world, that interplay of communication starts to blur a little bit. And it doesn't say, hi, I'm the plant. This is what I have to share with you, right? It kind of becomes part of your feelings too. And the boundaries of our experiences get a little blurred. And then we're kind of like, where did that come from? What's going on? How would you like to share about that? Because I sense when you were a small child and you went outside, which is so beautiful, is you somehow knew inherently to create the world around you and in you to be beautiful and to recognize it, facilitate it, witness it, observe it, listen to it, and then become a part of it and it become a part of your day. What inspired you, even when it was challenging in your childhood, to
Well,
be of that?
that practice I honestly didn't develop until I was an adult. I was already a school counselor when I started doing that. Um, but what really inspired that, to be honest, was working with plants and plant medicine When a girlfriend of mine's like, I'm going to take a course in herbalism. And then when I realized that plants have signatures, so they kind of like ginkgo biloba looks like the neural pathways, like it looks like the little neurons and dendrites stretching out. And then the leaf looks like the brain. So when I realized that the plants had markers in which they can communicate, like if it has red, it most likely is going to have medicine for the blood or connected to the blood in some way. So then we would do meditations where we practiced thinking like the plant. And at first I was like, I'm going to get a headache. I mean, this is nuts. I'm not going to, I don't know how to do this. And within a year, after practicing these meditations, I'd be like, okay, dandelion. Dandelion is like this goddess, and she's massaging the lining of the kidneys. And I was just able to tap into another form of intelligence and to help the people that maybe have never heard of anything like this before, just to validate that this intelligence is real. When I was a young herbalist, I was working with a woman that has a reproductive issue. And as I'm studying the different plants that she might be working with, I kept hearing, again, this is one of my intuitive abilities. I'm a little bit of a mutt. I get it I can dream.
It's beautiful.
I can see, I can hear, I get like certain sensations in my brain. I'm like a little, yeah, I'm an intuitive mutt. So my hearing came through in this one, and I kept hearing dandelion, dandelion, dandelion. I was like, okay, I'll give her dandelion. And they're like, no. And it just kept going. The voice was like, dandelion, I'm like, all right, I'm going to give her dandelion. So I do this whole session with her where I then present dandelion as her primary ally for transmuting this, because I would also talk about the plant, the personality of the plant, and the personality of the ailment that she's trying to transmute. And she looked at me and she goes, Laura, I have dandelion is my favorite flower. I have it painted all over my bedroom is huge dandelions so this kind of thing happens to me all the time, because it's just the way that the universe is confirming and letting me know that my intuitive hits are accurate, and that in alignment with the service that I'm intending to offer this beautiful woman that's stepping in now to the knowledge that I'm passing on, right? Because this knowledge, our ancestors were working with plants before the pharmaceuticals came and tried to burn up all the copies of the Book of Pharmacopoeia, where all the herbalists and botanists and indigenous people brought together all their wisdom on what the plants would do. This intelligence still lives, and thank goddess that we're still passing it on, because the plants, like maybe even just smelling rosemary, if you want to help your brain and connect with memories or have better dreams, make a rosemary tea, make it a ritual. And then you're starting to, again, this has to be one of those 23 intelligences that there's just such a profound and subtle. It's profound and it's super subtle. So your meditation practice, your ritual, to be relaxed, because it's all about relaxing. I had none of I had no idea I had any intuitive ability whatsoever, 15, 20 years ago, like none. And now I can, just share so many stories like this.
And you share it too, where we believe that, I love to go to peace, and I come across as extraordinarily peaceful to most people, but most people don't want that. They want busy, they want movement, they want manifestation, they want it now. And so you are like the living embodiment of sharing that you can be intuitively connected, silent in your mind, and very active, right?
Definitely very active, but I'm also very, very, I take on a lot of projects because I have a lot of energy and a lot of passion, and I just see things that are not right in the world and I've got to do something. So it's very, very important for me to take brain breaks. Like I literally stop myself multiple times a day to do nothing deliberately, so that then I could go back in and be more connected to source energy, or of the infinite intelligence, or the divine, whatever you want to call it, and allow it to help me accomplish the work faster and more efficient.
It's
and
amazing.
Also just playing, like the book Ride the Waves is just
right?
me, is just me playing. It was just play.
I love your Ride the Waves book, and it's so amazing. May I share with everyone, just for a few moments, an intro? It's on YouTube. It's on her website, on her YouTube channel called
The Shaman Next Door is my YouTube
called
channel.
the
It's also
Shaman
my
Next Door.
Instagram.
Yes. So I'm going to share screen with everyone and create that. Let's see. It's a 1-minute intro video, and I'm going to share it right now. Here it is. I'm so excited to share.
Laura is a bright, playful girl who loves art and dancing. Like many kids, she is a happy child until it's time to go to school. There she begins to struggle understanding her emotions. She doesn't know what to do when she feels sad, alone, or confused. As she grows up, she makes a magical connection between feelings and water. Just like water, feelings can be gentle and comforting, like happiness or laughter. Or they can be strong and powerful, like anger or fear. And most importantly, feelings need to flow. Then there's nothing to be scared of. It's just an opportunity to learn and to grow. Excited to help other kids deal with good and bad days, Laura writes a poem where she courageously invites her classmates to experience different emotions with her. The best part is, she takes them all over the world. Come ride the waves with Laura and learn how beautiful life can be when you trust yourself.
So beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, the videographers did a great job.
They did. Wow. And just sharing your book is the opportunity to share with children and parents that when we ride waves of emotions, even the negative ones are the ones we don't like, they cue us into the opportunity of, like you shared so beautifully, of accepting what is, that even if it's an uncomfortable emotion, I can ride the wave, I can breathe, I can be present to that emotion, and I can allow that emotion to flow through me rather than it staying stuck in our bodies, right? Creating disease, illness, or conditions that we didn't know that we would do over the moments that we experience these, over the months, years, and decades we live into our lives, and that we stay fresh, alive, awake, and aware, right? And then we
Yeah.
have the opportunity to move into acknowledging it. And then when you go into silence, and you have an uncomfortable emotion, what is your experience of that silence share with you to move to the other side of that awareness of that emotion that was created?
Well, to be honest, when you get into that juicy place of silence, you know, it's you want to be there. You realize how beautiful it feels and that you don't have to rush, and that, you know, everything that you need to get done, it will get done. So part of my hope and intention and vision with this work, with this book, is, you know, at the back, I write a letter to the readers where I let them know, hey, you know, when I was young, I really didn't know how to deal with my emotions. And if you had told me then that I would have traveled all over the world, that I would have partied, you know, and had and fallen in love and met all the amazing people that I've met, I don't know that I would have or been able to believe you at that time. It would have sounded like, you know, just noise. But, you know, I really want to plant a seed of hope in the imprints. And especially, like, I have gotten feedback from parents that are sharing the book with 2 and 3-year-olds, and they look at it again and again and again. So that there is an intentional design that I did with this book, an imprint through the images, because it's almost like a picture book. There is a poem, there is a story, but creative parents can really add a lot of context. They can bounce off some of the images for conversation with the older kids, right? But with the little kids, you're just saying, look, happiness, sadness, but we're already transmuting an imprint into that consciousness of that young child, that feelings are passing, and look at how beautiful they all are, because the book, you can get happy just looking at the pictures. I mean, the artist did a great job. The colors just bounce off the page. And it makes me so happy to hear that, when the auntie or the parents come home and they're like, Laura book, Laura book. So they want to watch, and it's like their favorite thing. So it's just it's indescribable just to know that my suffering and my challenges have become the gold, have become a little diamond. And this little book is evidence of that in the physical, a celebration of having triumph over the darkness that can consume you. Because I'm one of those. I became the person that I never had. I became the counselor, that I wish I would. I wish I could have spoken to, because I was by myself navigating my emotions, and I struggled a lot into my mid 20s. It was that's when I decided to pursue a master's in counseling and change my life. And that was a gift in of itself, until I realized the school system was not the best place for me to share these gifts. Outside the school system, I could just work differently. And what a blessing that is.
Such a huge blessing. And you are the miracle, and we are the miracle to receive you today, and to receive your wisdom, your consciousness, your passion and purpose in the world. And you just inspire everyone to create through their emotions, through those downloads, through that wafting of feelings inside our body physically, to experience who we are and who the miracle is, we in you. And that's how we really synergize our love and our giftedness together.
Wow, Ashley. Well, what an honor, delight, and pleasure. Namaste to you, because you are such a miracle. Every time I'm in your presence, I just light up. So I thank you for all the amazing work that you do in the world, for hosting this program, and for igniting and being a spark plug for the miracles to exponentiate in every direction. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to you joining us next week, Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, live on SoulogyNetwork.com.